Broadcasting live.
Woohoo! Don't type
Hey,
passwords.
hey,
Hey,
everybody.
hey,
Yep, no more typing passwords. People can see your screens
people can
or
see
your
our screen.
keyboards.
People can see my keyboard. They can figure out my keystrokes.
That's right. Welcome to Sunday Morning Linux Review. This is the unedited video
Hmm.
version. For the edited version, check out smlr.us. Um, what do we say? You want to do like the YouTuber intro?
No,
Hey, thanks for coming and join us today. We
yeah.
love it when you come and see us.
I purposely avoid those over the top intros on YouTube. I keep things very concise, and it's because I appreciate other YouTubers that do that, so I do
Mhm.
that. And it's a common thank you note I get is thank you for not trying to like breathe enthusiasm. We know you're here to do a firewall review, Tom. You're going to be concise.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, we were just talking about how like we don't have a whole lot of people followers. Like we don't have 10,000 followers,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like typical for Linux
Yeah.
podcasts and stuff.
Yeah, it's a little it's a niche market. As global as Linux is, when you start thinking about it, let's just add up how many servers I maintain or you maintain or even Phil maintains. You actually, when you think about that, because of the numbers of scale, Phil has built 700 units.
Hmm.
Phil, one Phil. So when you think about it, yeah, Linux globally runs millions of them. Yeah, but it only takes a handful of system admins to run Linux. It's not like
Right,
Windows that takes like a team to solve one Active Directory problem.
right. Yeah, that's awesome.
So I think that's part of the problem. There's not as many Linux people because the systems are so automated.
Yeah.
That's a theory. Probably completely wrong. Someone's going to throw stats at me to prove me wrong. I'll agree with them. This is not scientific at all, by the way.
All right.
All right.
So I guess we're gonna get started.
Yep. Play the intro.
The
Oh,
Sunday Morning
hold on.
Linux Review.
Let's turn that up a little bit.
Let's see. Play the right intro.
The Sunday Morning Linux Review with Mary Tomich, Tom Lawrence, and Tony Bemis as the Beaver.
And this is episode 273 again.
Yeah. Again.
Again. Apparently, last time we sat down to record, I had the wrong numbers.
Yeah. I
Show
think you had the wrong numbers. The show numbers are right in the titles because Tom checked. Now, Tom did think he missed an episode that didn't get published. And I probably could have found something that we hadn't published from somewhere and put it in and call it an episode, but I chose not to. I chose to because when we do these news ones, we want them to be relevant and go, wait a minute, that's all last week's news.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised we didn't get any emails about it.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think it was wrong. Either way, it is definitely right now. So.
All right. uh anyway, so if you guys are watching, or if you, I guess you're listening at this point, you can only hear that there's just the two of us, Tom
Yeah.
and I. Mary is out on another one of her trips.
Yep.
I can't, I don't know if she told us where she was going this time.
She did. We'd have to listen to our previous episode to remember.
Yeah.
So it's documented somewhere that she is traveling and where she's traveling to.
Right. And then Phil is busy doing something.
Phil is tied up on some type of project, the details of which are a mystery. So,
Yeah.
and
Well,
probably will remain a mystery.
probably home ownership. That stuff's mysterious, huh?
Yeah, Phil's learning a lot about home ownership. He's getting a crash course in broken hot water tanks and all kinds of fun things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so he's busy. He's like, I want a farmhouse. I wonder how he feels later because we talked about his house a few weeks ago. And a year from now, we're going to do a debrief, and he's going to be like Tom going, I don't want to own a house anymore. Please let me downsize as soon as the kids move out.
Yeah, I wanted one for really bad. And then after like looking at cell signals and internet availability, I'm like, I'm kind of happy that I'm in the city.
There's a lot of advantages to living in burbs. So I'm kind of the same way. I would, if everything was connectivity wise was really good. But the other side that aggravates me is I need to be close to things because I have children and things like that. I have to drive my kids to school in the morning and drive them back in the afternoon each day. So I have 2 hours of my day that disappear to shuffling kids. And then of course, kids don't just go back for school. Turns out they want to go to friends' houses and require more driving. So being close in the burbs makes that easy.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. When do you get to that age? You think you're busy now?
Oh geez. Yeah.
Then they want to go places. And you're like, wait a minute. I didn't plan on you leaving the house. Anyways, so should we catch up on stuff?
Yeah. So what's going on?
So I won't go into as much detail as I shared with Tony, but I will do a video on when it all goes wrong, when you have a client that you told those blinky red lights are really bad, and then the whole server crashes and RAID arrays crash. And we suspected that there were crappy hard drives in the RAID array from the previous IT guy. It turns out he used the Western Digital Green, which are the cheapest of the cheap hard drives,
Those slow ones?
the slow economy hard drives, and
Jeez.
he built a RAID array out of them. One, they're not made to be in enterprise systems, and that will be discussed in my video in more depth for those of you wondering why you shouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
um, and just it's caused us a lot of pain trying to get that lined up because I care a lot about my clients, and this is one of those things when we take them on. When we put it all together, as much as our budget will allow, we make it all nice, but in between the transition of getting to why do you have this really old server? You should really replace this to getting it nice, very problematic.
Right.
um, Other than that, because I've been so buried in projects, I've been doing. I did a handful of more YouTube videos, mostly around some of the Unify products because we have that many of them going in. We've got. We're probably installing 50 or 60 cameras over the next few days.
Wow.
So at different locations, where we had to buy 3 48 port switches that are just for another project. There's that many wiring. With the bid was for 2, they added that many more drops. So
Mm-hmm.
then someone, we mounted the rack. It's a giant build out that's actually going on right by us in Woodhaven. And then
Ooh.
some crazy person in a man lift drove it into our rack and
What?
smashed it and ripped the drywall out. Good news is switches weren't mounted yet, so
Oh,
just some bent metal.
yeah. That's good.
Yeah, so it kind of like you, the all dealing with all my staff and dealing with all the little issues that come up related to it is kept me really really busy and not as much project busy.
Mm.
So I've been wanting to do more testing with the open source Zen server, which is the XCP-NG project. I think I brought it up that I had moved over 1 or 2 of my servers to it. I remember. I think
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's a respin of Zen, but not without the Citrix, because Citrix decided to close up features. So a group of people decided it should be fully open source, and I agree. And so we've been installing more of those. That's been it's been work projects,
Mm-hmm.
not the fun stuff, the functional things I have to do. I feel all icky dealing with Active Directory problems, and that was some of the stuff I shared with Tony. Is
Yeah.
just how bad those were.
Oh man.
We still have mysteries in Active Directory. I bring in the expert for that. I mean, I can muddle my way through Active Directory, and if I'm the one that set it up, because I know I set it up following good practice, it works fine. When we take over Active Directory from someone, it's figuring out all the mysteries and weird code dependencies that have been put in there.
Mm.
Active Directory, for all the love and hate, is it's a good system because it allows the federated access. There's not a good Linux equivalent. LDAP just isn't as robust as Active Directory. The other side of it is it can all go wrong if you set it up wrong. So that's a lot to think about. Tony's making a face because
Yeah.
he's probably dealt with an Active Directory thing or two.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, it's big and complex, and I can definitely see where problems can happen.
Yeah, we have another client we're proposing because we're going to replace hers, but because there's only 12 people in our office, it's so much smaller. They have a lot of servers, but it's 12 people. We're just redoing it new. Solving the mysteries of hidden objects in Active Directory is we keep finding something new every time we mess with their system to solve a problem. So our next solution is literally just we're just going to recreate 12 users and create a new domain name
Yeah.
and join all the computers to it. We're not even going to try and figure out what the other IT guy did. So, and we take over projects like that all the time because if the IT guy just kind of muddles his way through and doesn't know what he's doing and puts in weird things, that's often why they get fired because
Yeah.
they can't maintain the weirdness that they created.
Nice. Yeah.
So, other than that, yeah, like I said, oh, I did something exciting open source. I did move off of Ring Central and we're onto the free PBX.
Oh.
So I did a crash course in learning free PBX. I have some videos to edit and upload of Tom learning how to do free PBX. But I realized I don't think anyone's done a concise flow model for it to show how all the modules are connected. But it's an amazing open source system that has commercial support, which is why with phone systems, obviously are critical if you're running them in a business, but you can get it free and you can hand program anything you want in it. The commercial modules just are usually easy modules. Like I want to make the buttons graphically light up different. Well, they have a module for that. You can hand program it or you can get the module, which is relatively inexpensive. But yeah, we moved over to that, so now we're running on an open source phone system. So
Awesome.
that was a big change. That
And
was a
that's
lot
out
of
of a
learning.
server here in
Yep,
your
we hosted here
business.
internally, and we bought SIP. I learned all about SIP. So I am going to do some videos on it, and the bigger video I need to do, because it took me a while to understand. Okay, I have to draw like a box of flow charts to tell people how the flow in and out is, because all the videos I watch, which my friend Chris, who owns a company called Crosstalk Solutions, who specializes in building free PBX systems, his videos cover a lot of the setup, and they're probably the best tutorials out there. It's literally why I contacted him and met him. It was to set up our phone system,
Mm.
and walk me through things. But no one's done like that. I can find like a flow for what each box does and how the flow works. And so I'm going to do a video that kind of shows that, so I can visualize it. Because once I did that for my staff, it helped quite a bit.
Oh,
And once they understood kind of like, oh, this is how all the extensions flow, this is why what relationships are one to one, which ones are one to many, and which boxes go to the next box, go to the next box. And once you understand that, you actually get the phone system becomes very easy to manage. So
nice.
yeah.
I'm imagining that a new employee comes into Tom's business and has to spend a week watching videos just to figure out how
Yeah.
everything works here.
Yes. Yeah, there's a little bit of that. I've done my in I that's one thing. It's interesting. My videos are often based on employee questions, not outside questions.
Hmm.
So when I want to teach my staff something, I do a video so they can watch it. And they literally, I got two of them that have watched my videos quite a few times, have remembered things. And yesterday I got stuck on something and watched my own video because I couldn't remember the command to create passwords for the automated backup. There's a parameter, and it's actually, I made sure I did a video about how to set the backup up, and then focus on that parameter because it's also buried in their documentation.
No.
If you want to automate Zen backups, you need to have the password to the server, and it has a tool that creates a special hash and embeds it into a file. If you don't put the parameter right on the tool, and the way their documentation, I should probably just message them about updating documentation.
Yeah.
I got to learn how to use GitHub better. That has been on my to-do list. Like, I know what needs to be changed because I forked something the other day because of a change, but I couldn't figure out how to tell the guy to change it.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, I'm an idiot. I can't figure this out. So Phil said he'll give me a crash course in GitHub.
That's good.
So that's that's a
Yeah.
summary of Tom for the last.
It reminds me of, on the firewalls I work with, that there's undocumented commands that you can run.
Yes.
But there's this user forum saying my best three top commands I always use. And I want to say like 10% of those that are posted are, this is undocumented, but this is awesome. This is undocumented. This is awesome.
Right.
So I'm like making notes because I know it's not going to be on a cheat sheet somewhere. So I'm making my own cheat sheet.
Yeah, and that's what I thought about, because I think I can fork the documentation and then submit it back as a pull request. Like, I'll rewrite it for them. I know exactly, because I did the video, and my video to me is my documentation as well. My only bigger concern is it's living on YouTube, so there's always that.
Right.
I am trying to decide at the moment where I should back up all my videos to. There's a couple other sites. I don't mind pushing them elsewhere. I just need to know where elsewhere is. It's also becoming a problem because I have just terabytes of video. Because when you shoot a video, you have all the uh, processed footage, which is the important part. But I also keep all the B-roll, and I'm not sure how long I should keep it for. But the B-roll, as in, if I have 3 hours of footage I shot and it comes down to being a 1-hour video, there's 2 hours of unused footage. Maybe I want to address later because it has something interesting.
Right, and that's like in uncompressed or in high
Yeah,
def.
yeah. It's all in all I shoot in is 1080, and then some of my stuff is in 4K because I have one 4K camera. So I have
Yeah, so it ends up one video is taking up what, like 10 or 20 gigs of data in your.
Yes, we actually have a video that's 7 minutes, which is a client walkthrough for how we built an entire thing. But because we do time lapses, there's 600 gigs of video
Jeez.
in the source, but the output is like, a few hundred megs.
Yeah.
And hours and hours, because it's all compressing all the time lapse footage and pulling. Because we shot everything, because the project went on for 3 weeks to build out this client. It's a big project. But then when it's compressed and we just have all this, like, well, this isn't really useful. They walked out of frame, but the camera was recording for 2 hours, and they walked out of frame half the time. So you just clip the footage out. But what do I just delete it all? And you can't take just a clipped out, because you can't cut that file and resave it. That would take you too much work. So yeah, I have a Backblaze account. I might just dump it all there, so I have it somewhere other than on my servers.
Yeah.
Because that's actually another thing. I keep buying more storage for my server, but I don't have a place to back that up. We have all our company data mirrored in 2 places. This data is too big to mirror unless I have to double my storage arrays.
You could get, an array of 5 terabyte drives. They're just like archive, like
That's what we're doing.
2018 is this 5 terabyte,
Yeah.
2017 is this 5 terabyte.
Yeah. We thought
Yeah.
about that. The problem is if you put them on a single spinning drive, there's a risk of failure. So I like to keep, this is a theory.
Or, like cold storage kind of thing where you probably aren't going to have to touch it. But
Right.
for $200, it's worth to keep around and
Yeah.
that you might be able to recover from it.
The thought is you should always keep data living and online because you never know if one of those old hard drives won't spin up. But if you
Hmm.
keep it moving and at least mirrored, it will at least always be there. And you'll know if there's a problem with it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know there's a problem, Backblaze goes out of business. You're like, oh, I just heard Backblaze is closing or something. Not that they're not, they aren't. They aren't. This is just a theory. The
Yeah.
place I stored my data is closing. Let me spin up my drives, make sure they work. Oh, this is interesting. But if
Hmm.
they fail online, you know they failed, and you can deal with it and then potentially pull from that place. But you
Yeah.
don't know if they failed if they're not
Yeah.
on. I don't know. This is all. I don't know what to do about all of it. Do I even keep the B-roll? I actually purged a bunch of it from a while ago because mostly because I didn't know what I was doing. It was all bad B-roll. I just know how unusable the footage was.
Right. 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 Hmm. Yeah, it's a good. I think what I did with the show is I kept a year worth, in case I wanted to go back and do like a snippet from throughout the
Yeah,
year.
but then
And then after that, I kept all the processed,
mhm.
that we published, and then everything else I just let go. You deleted it out.
It's the nice thing about audio files is they're very manageable. They're very
Yeah.
compressible. So these are small, and because of the scale of things. But to the other side, I think there's new. I think it was Western Digital has a new release line of 12 terabyte enterprise
Mm.
drives that are supposed to be pretty reasonable price. So hard drive storage is getting bigger. Spinning disks are not going away. We found out if we fill them with helium, we can get more stuff in them. So as storage becomes cheaper, becomes I used to worry about backing up my 120 gigs of personal files that I have, like all my
Mm.
photos. 120 gigs is so not anything now.
Yeah, right.
It
And that's what it was at the time, 5 years ago when I was debating this out. Then that's it was the same thing. I had a 2 terabyte drive, and 1 terabyte had videos, and then the other terabyte had almost everything else filled up. And I'm like, well, do I really need this 50 gigs worth of
I know.
old show data? But
Uh, all the fun.
yeah. Anyway, so we should probably get
Yep.
going. Um,
What do you got going on besides watching children and
oh,
trying to juggle life?
yeah, yeah, it's been busy with that. Um, but I have my FreeNAS is getting that swap error
Yeah, I
problem
haven't seen
again.
that one.
Yeah, the error, and I get an email now because I figured out if you put the correct gateway in,
Hmm.
then it actually can email you.
Hmm.
So if it knows where the router sits, then it
Yep.
can send you emails. So now I'm getting daily emails, and for the last couple of days, I got this one that's just filled with this error. That's swap pager get get swap space failed,
Hmm.
and old messages from one was from like 4 years ago, the other was from 8 years ago. All said that it's like a memory leak kind of issue. So I'm probably gonna have to reboot soon, or my Plex is gonna die.
Huh.
Speaking of my Plex, last time I said I got a tuner card, HD Home
Yeah.
Run.
How'd that go?
It's actually running really good. I
Awesome.
love it. There's a few channels every once in a while I won't tune into that for some reason, and when I Google it, it says yeah, it's just HD Home Run. Every once in a while hangs up, or I
It's
don't know. They
quirky
said reset it, just reboot it,
and it works.
and it works. And but I leave it,
Yeah.
because it's in the corner of my basement. I don't want to walk
Yeah.
down there. And then it works, a couple hours later, and
Huh.
it wasn't really a show that I really wanted to watch, anyways. But anyway, I got this whole boatload of things recording, and it's things that run on air, aren't available on online streaming. So this is like the perfect medium for
Yeah.
that.
No, that's pretty cool.
So, that's things like This Old House. I like
Yeah.
watching those kind of things.
Bob Vila, man.
Yeah, and what I like about those over like the HGTV stuff is that those are like real people in there like, really fixing things. It's
You
not just
know,
actors pretend to fix
and
things.
this is something I love about YouTube. I think reality TV, and I'm going to put it in air quotes here, reality.
Right.
One of the things we realized was it's so overly scripted. The writer's strike we had a few years ago when it stopped all the reality shows, everyone was like, wait a minute, the writer's strike stopped the reality TV shows. they try to make everything so over dramatic all the time. They
Hmm.
try to push it all the time that it takes away the purpose of the video. Bob Vila's videos are about how to build a house.
Yeah.
And a lot of YouTubers, I've learned a lot. There's a lot of house builders on there too. You can learn all kinds of construction stuff on YouTube, not just tech stuff. And it's been wonderful. I can look it up, and there's a guy, and here's how you fix this, or here's how you solve this plumbing problem. And it's just some guy with a camera, and he does better than HGTV. And I think that's what people are realizing. They want reality. They like true
Real,
reality.
yeah,
Yeah,
real
like
reality.
just show
Yeah.
me how to fix a sink. I don't need to know the drama and the controversy he had with his foreman on the job site. I
Exactly.
just want to know how the plumbing went
Yeah.
in.
I agree
So
completely.
yeah, so that's an appreciation I have. Bob Vila, I think, nailed it, and he needs to get a YouTube channel.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's things like that, and it's working pretty good.
Cool,
The schedule's right on.
awesome.
I tell it to record a minute ahead, minute after, and I'm getting like this fluff. So if I trim it down, last night on a few of them I trimmed it down because it's right on the minute is when it starts,
Yeah,
and so it starts recording, and I like
I
it.
like it.
It does a good job, and you know what's really cool, because I tried this with what's the previous Linux DVR, Myth TV.
Myth TV.
It's still around. You can
Hmm.
use it. And I tried setting up Myth TV, and it was a combination of I didn't have a HD home run at the time, so it didn't really tune right, or things just didn't line up right. But then for the scheduling, you had to buy a service, that's the
Oh yeah.
scheduling. Well, through Plex, if you have a Plex Pass, then they include the scheduling
Oh
service.
cool.
Yeah, so it's just there ready, and it's that much easier to set it up, and I don't have to worry about that. A year from now, am I going to remember to pay, and then I lose my scheduling data and stuff.
Yeah, that'd be a pain in the butt.
Right. Anyway, so that's been working really good.
Awesome.
Yeah. And we should move on. So listener feedback.
We want to hear from you. Call 734 258 7009 or email show@smlr.us with your feedback and questions.
So email.
I'm actually going to start real quick because I have one Twitter mention.
Ooh.
So we had talked about Linus, Lynis, and this is Michael Bulin. Linus finds its way into more podcasts. This time I mentioned from the friendly folks at the Sunday Morning Linux Review, episode 272. Thought that was pretty cool. I think he
Yeah.
means 270. Yeah, 272. Yep, because I talked about it, and that was the tool that audits Linux for security. It finds things,
Yeah.
it checks your config files and everything else. He's the writer, and he apparently listens to our podcast because I honestly forgot to tweet that our podcast. He did it before I tweeted.
Oh,
So
awesome.
he went out and found and listened to it, or found it somehow and
Yeah.
listened to our podcast, and he's a creator. So awesome.
I put that on my test server at work, and it pulled out a few things that I didn't even think about, and set it up, and it's working good now.
Yeah, no, I might do a video on it because Phil's the one who clued me in about it a while ago, and I did some testing. I'm like, this is neat. It finds little things that I should do.
Right.
Yeah.
What's interesting is even with that like there's one of them that I thought I had the config in there, like documented or not uncommented correctly, so it'd start doing whatever, and then I just didn't go back and test it, and it went through and says, hey, wait a minute, root shouldn't be sshing in. I'm like, but I set that, and then I went back and looked, and I'm like, oh, I didn't set it just right.
Right. Yeah, little details like
So,
that. So
yeah.
no, definitely great tool. I will mention it again here, and I'm hoping he's a listener. That would be exciting.
Yeah.
So very cool.
Speaking of Twitter, we have a
Yeah.
Twitter account now.
Yes, we do. I see
Mary
that.
set it up this week.
So now we can actually tweet officially
Right.
as us.
What is it? At SMLR podcast, I think it is.
It will be in the show notes. It'll be on our website because it'll be officially linked on there. We got to get that done. I'll work on that today.
I'm pretty sure it is. That's what Mary said she was going to make it.
Probably.
Yeah, it's yeah, at SMLR_podcast. And instead of the Sunday morning Linux review, she put it's the Sunday AM Linux review. I wonder why. Maybe it was too long to put that all.
Could be.
Anyway, so yeah, so check it out. I'm following it. It has 2 followers, me and probably Mary. Yep, Mary T. So check it out.
Yep. I'll also throw out there just in general and feedback. Me and Tony talked to us for a show. I've mentioned many times on my YouTube channel about our podcast, and I get a lot of thank yous on there. So that they really enjoyed the content. So shout out to all those that came from my YouTube channel over here. It's as I've ranted about YouTube comments being hard to find ever again.
Yeah.
But they exist, and thank you for those that come and listen to us from there.
All right.
Now
Yeah.
we can
So
get to
we,
the
we got an
emails.
email from Phil, not our Phil, another listener, Phil,
Yep.
about Plex and HD home run. And he said he tried setting it up and recording the Olympics, and it failed miserably. I wonder if the scheduling systems didn't have the Olympics in right or something, because that's a major change out of the normal schedule. And then he said, the new versions has 4 tuners. Like that is really cool, but I didn't have the money to spend $200 on a tuner.
Yeah.
Uh, but the new HD home run, it does encoding on the box, the re-encoding, and so it
Oh,
has a hardware encoder
okay.
and 4 tuners.
Got
He,
it.
yeah, so it takes the processing off of whatever system you're recording on. Um, but yeah,
Okay.
so yeah, and I talked about I for regular schedule stuff, it works really good.
Nice.
Um, I got an email from Joel Stevens, and the reason I'm using his last name because he's linking over to his own webpage. Um, and we normally don't take people say, "Hey, check out our webpage," but this is legit stuff. I read his email and I like it. A while back, what episode? It was. He didn't put the show what episode number it was, but I talked about a rootkit link. How to clean up or to detect rootkits,
Oh, yeah.
and he has a webpage of that he went through and did an analysis on different rootkit removal tools and stuff. And so and what it is that link I used before is now wrong, or it's broken. But I was thinking, instead of updating that link from a year ago or 2 years ago, then I'm going to just put this in today's show.
Okay. That'd be great.
So yeah, so rootkit detection tools and removal guide. And we got a
Kevin O'Brien.
Yeah.
On our passwords. So horse battery staple stopped being secure a few years ago. He's just letting us know that he is correct. If you string too many words together, because of dictionary attacks, it's still high levels of entropy, but not high enough. LastPass is substantially better, and that's what he had mentioned. LastPass, KeyPass, OnePass,
Yeah,
password
password
management.
generator. Yeah, password generator within your password manager is really good.
Yeah. As random as people are,
yeah,
people do not generate random passwords. So it's if you ever think the world's full of a lot of different people, you just look at their passwords and you realize they all say monkey. So
right.
we all like monkeys apparently.
Yeah. Oh, what's funny is a few years ago there was this guy that made up his own password generator.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, I use this algorithm of this word plus this word plus, and it wasn't really that high of entropy of passwords. So was it
Steve Gibson.
Yeah, Steve Gibson
Yeah.
said, that's probably not a really good one to use. So
Yeah.
that's why I stick to the one that's built into my password manager.
It's really the best way to do it is using it. And if KeyPass, for those of you that I'm never putting my stuff in LastPass, OnePass, some online system. KeyPass is a wonderful open source alternative. It has all kinds of great syncing tools. You can sync it with OwnCloud to different devices, and they have a phone app. So that's definitely. I'll reiterate for those of you that are pure open source people. No problem. I like it. I like it myself for personal password management. But LastPass, because I run a business, is just the more convenient way to manage it.
Right. Yeah. And I agree. If you got a little bit of money and you don't mind,
yeah,
relying. I mean, so you're relying on a cloud service, but at the same time, it's known that they're safe with what's happening. So
yeah. And they don't see your passwords; they pre-encrypt, so it's decrypted inside your browser.
That's what I was trying
prior
to say,
to. Yeah, it's essentially a trust no one because they can't recover it. But yeah, he makes some very Kevin. You make some very valid points though about the dictionary attack problem of just stringing words together. It's better than password having horse battery staple, but it's still not near, not even close to as good as you're going to get with a password manager. So
Right.
the passwords are always going to be a problem.
Yeah. Um, and actually, I was reading the email wrong. I don't know what happened when I was reading the email. It was Joel Stevens is that sent me that rootkit email, and the other one is choosing passwords. There's Diceware.
Yeah, Diceware is kind of neat. I think you rolled the dice, easy to use, very secure. This is an old write up using creative way memory passphrase of encryption. There, Steve Gibson, I believe, has covered versions like this where someone had a series of dice they would roll around and would generate the password for them for the proper amount of entropy. Pretty neat. So
Yeah.
back to you're better off using KeyPass. Like I said, if you're looking for an open source but easy way to generate it, KeyPass gets enough
Yeah.
entropy. It's open source. It's a great password management tool. Please do not lose your master password to it because that's it.
So what happened? I finally convinced my sister to do it to sign up for LastPass. And then as soon as she left, she forgot what the password was.
Yep.
And then I'm like,
That's it.
well, how many passwords did you get in there? Oh, one or two. I'm like, just reset the whole thing. You
Yeah.
know, just and actually I did the same thing. The first time I set mine up, I set it up as something, and then I hadn't really gotten anything in it yet. I'm like, crap, I can't remember it. And then I'm like, well, just wipe the whole database, recreate a new one on a new master password, and
I annoyed myself purposely by setting it up so it would ask me each time. And what that did was it created muscle memory because I had to type it several times a day, all day, and
yeah.
that was on purpose. Now I set it to remember my password for a couple hours because I'm usually sitting at my workstation for several hours at a time. So if I log in, and generally I type it in once, and the reason I do that is because I log into everything. The first 10 minutes of my day, if my browser had to be restarted, is logging back in. And some of our stuff doesn't do persistent login anyways because I won't let it. Like our documentation server, it forcibly logs you out.
Yeah.
For security reasons. So same with our point of sale system, all that. It's all set to force logouts. So
That's good. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Was there anything else?
I think that's all we had.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. Let's get some.
One other thing.
Oh.
For all you, we're gonna have a little bit less Microsoft stuff going forward because we're not going to the next conference, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of okay with it because
although the reason of not inviting us back is because there wasn't anything big Linux going on or being
I'm gonna
announced.
throw it out there that I don't believe them. We'll cover that in a news section though.
But it's all right. It's our friend Brat is who's been getting us in there, and I completely understand it. It's a budget thing,
Yeah.
And
do we provide enough value for what we cost on the budget?
Right.
That's just we come there. We are critical of Microsoft. We are big into Linux stuff, so they kind of weigh in on it. And Microsoft's doing well financially. Their market cap's coming close. They could be the first $1 trillion company. So yeah, which also means they should have the money to bring us out there. So I'm talking myself in a circle here. I don't know. We just know we're not going. That's our official statement. We'll leave it there.
Right. All right. So I guess we're going to move on.
Distro Fever, where we cover the latest hot distro releases and news.
Distro Watch, Distro Fever. So
the first thing I'll bring up, and I forever ago ran Smoothwall. I didn't know it was still around. They have a new release. It's on the top of Distro Watch here, so I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, this today. Yep,
yeah,
new release.
Oh my gosh, they have an annoying pop up on their website, so you can click across it. So yeah, I don't know much of the.
I didn't see it.
When you go, I went to smoothwall.org, their website. It's got a thing that lets you know it's released. You have to click it away. I don't want anything to pop up. I just want to look at your news on the front page. Anyways, yeah, I actually used to run Smoothwall. Man, this is an old project. When did I first run that? Probably in the 2004.
Oh yeah.
I think it was a fork from IP Cop. Do you remember IP Cop?
No, they're forked. Smoothwall and IP Cop were both forked from the base of that.
Mandrake.
Was it?
Mandrake used to have one.
Yeah, it must be that.
Mandrake had a firewall software. It was one of the first software defined networking I'd ever used.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, because I remember trying it back then too, years
wow.
and years
Their
ago.
first release was 2000 of October.
Wow.
Or, no, I'm sorry. Yeah. Whatever. The 2000, the year 2000. Wow. So, yeah. I think I used it in 2002 when it came to its 1.0 release, and I switched off of the Mandrake. If you remember Mandrake for a while, we had a Mandrake with the mail server and everything built in. That was a big deal back then
Hmm.
to have all that. So,
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah.
yeah.
There's a new release of Clonezilla,
Yes.
so it will clone better.
Yes. We use Clonezilla for the disaster project. It helped with some of the copying the servers over that were older, like the Windows XP boxes. It seemed to work better than some of the other tools on those.
Yeah.
Yes, you just hear me say that I cloned XP machines across virtual machines.
Oh.
That's why they're in virtual machines.
Yeah. What's interesting, and I did the same thing. I mean, if you're trying to move from one virtual platform to another, just treat it like you're moving it from one hardware PC to another, and you just clone it and then and then
Um,
reapply that image.
yeah, we've actually used it for when you do P2V, so physical to virtual machines.
Hmm.
But Clonezilla, it's got a couple really cool features, including it's got its own. If you wanted to go all out with it, it has the built-in server, so you can set up a TFTP and DHCP server on it, and then it will then broadcast to clients over PXE, pull them down, and they can broadcast to it.
Oh, really?
Yep. And if
It-
you're cloning one to many, because we're setting up the machines for PenguinCon, it's got a multicasting option.
Hmm.
So you set them to network boot and listen on multicast, and it will simultaneously clone groups of machines.
and from like the head end or
Yep.
the server, you
Yep.
say send it out, and
You
then
got it.
oh,
It works
nice.
really well. It's actually because we're for PenguinCon, we're setting up a bunch of Linux laptops for the training, and we're using Clonezilla to do them in groups.
Hmm.
So
Awesome.
as many as you got network plugs for, you can multicast. So it's pretty cool. You specify number of devices, and it's got a cool alignment method. You say, I'm going to clone 10 laptops, and it waits till the 10th laptop gets online. And once it sees it, it just broadcasts that image to all of them simultaneously.
Oh, wow. That
So
is cool.
yeah,
Because I thought you had to like manually start it.
no,
That's
it's
cool.
well, even if you boot each one of them off like a USB and you set them in listen mode, so you didn't have to do the PXE part of it, it
Yeah.
still works. It works
Hmm.
great. So yeah, hats off to Clonezilla. They make some really good software for doing that. And of course, cloning Linux to Linux is easier. The only thing it doesn't do a great job of, it won't do in one. Well, I think there's a way you can script it. It doesn't like expand the partitions to the different size hard drives automatically.
Right.
You have to run gparted for that, but not
Yep.
hard
I
to
run
do.
into the same thing. Or it won't clone from a bigger hard drive to a smaller hard drive.
That's correct. You have to downsize it prior to the cloning process.
Yep.
There's very few. There's only one backup utility I can even name that does that
Hmm.
properly. We've tried the other ones who claim to do it, and it always crashes.
Yeah.
But anyways, other
Cool.
distros.
I see Red Hat
Red
Enterprise
Hat.
7.5 is out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know what's new about it.
Yeah, I mean, Red Hat's doing well. They really have the enterprise market, but they don't hit us a lot because they're not. I mean, how would you want to say that? I guess they're just not really into the whole desktop market, so they don't hit like the consumer stuff. I mean, they were chugging away doing all the wonderful things that they do in the enterprise market, providing excellent support and giving back a lot of code. It's a great product, but it doesn't. It's very enterprise level now. It didn't hit our news market as much.
Exactly. Yeah. It says that they're providing a simple web interface for network and storage setups. Additionally, new functionalities and integrated with
I'm assuming that's
Windows-based
the cockpit
infrastructure.
project.
Yeah, that's what it looks
I've
like.
covered
Yeah.
it in one of my
Yeah.
videos. Have you ever used Cockpit?
I have not.
It's actually multi-platform, so it doesn't just support Red Hat. It's a web interface built really well. There's a lot of hate for Webmin
Mm,
because but Webmin's been around for like 15 years. So
right.
with all the legacy problems, there's been a lot of little bugs inside of Webmin. It's a very complicated system on the back end. Webmin has come a long way and it does a lot of things. Cockpit's kind of an alternative to that.
Mm.
Built ground up with modern technology, so it's more secure, more robust. But honestly, it doesn't even touch the features of Webmin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't really use Webmin much, but I highly have pushed it for home labbers. if you don't do things very often, like, hey, how do you set up an iSCSI initiator in Linux from the command line? I tell you, it's a couple clicks and a copy paste. If you do it in Webmin, it's a
Oh,
lot more commands to do it inside of the command line. I
yeah.
encourage people to learn command line. If you're a casual sysadmin who just has a couple Linux boxes, Webmin's probably pretty good for you. Keep it locked down.
Right. And that's where I started,
Yeah.
for the first years of my stuff, was all Webman. And it was nice, and it was a convenient way to see, make configuration checks
I have
or
it not
whatever.
started, but on a couple servers because of the way I can view things with it. I still
Mhm.
jump to the command line to configure, but when you want to just view, like I want to see every user's cron job without typing a bunch of commands from the command line, because I don't do it very often.
Right.
Or when I have to think about cron scheduling, I can do all the custom cron scheduling and it writes it for me just by a couple clicks. That is greatly convenient because I always forget. Now Phil doesn't, but he's Phil.
Right.
He does it every day. I
Yeah.
don't set up cron jobs every day. I set them up and like let them run. So, anyways, yeah, that's all I
Yeah.
see for the other distros, though.
I feel like we need to mention Dragonfly. Or was
Oh,
that from,
yeah,
yeah, the 10th. So Dragonfly with BSD was
yeah.
released.
Mary's not here, so we'll get a
So,
BSD mention.
right. Uh there's the Oracle. The Oracle Linux 7.5 is out,
Mm,
just because of the Red Hat release.
yeah.
So I'm expecting to see a CentOS release soon too. But anyway, I guess that's it.
All right.
All right, moving on.
Tech news and views.
Tech news for this show.
Lots of tech news. You want me to go ahead
So,
and start?
yeah,
All
you
right.
can go ahead.
The Germans have opted for open source cloud solution from Nextcloud. Now, this is actually really cool. Hopefully, it goes better than the other German Linux project that I know didn't go as well. But I've learned a lot about the Germans and their culture, and it's been fascinating. We have a German company that we service some of the IT stuff for, and they are not afraid to just fly a guy on a plane to plug something in. And the
Oh yeah.
reason why is actually really interesting. They are just so anti US is be almost the when it comes to they don't like products that are just owned by the US. They don't like Microsoft. They don't like Cisco. They don't like that. You do not find that equipment. You find all kinds of other equipment in there.
Hmm.
They love open source firewalls. They like the fact that we have pfSense installed at their office. They just that stuff they think is great because they just don't trust it. They don't trust the US. Even all their SIP trunking and everything VPNs to their head office in Germany.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they VPN it throughout the. They don't say we don't want US listening to us. Like this is the sysadmin guys
Well,
telling
makes
us that.
and it completely makes sense because they're the whole society in general is very privacy oriented, right?
Mhm.
So with
Germany
all
of all developed nations is the least amount of them are on Facebook.
yeah, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But with all of the news from the last, well, I don't know, 5 years now,
Mhm.
is that you don't know what's in a lot of these products anymore.
Yeah.
So
I was also
that's the best thing about open source. The code gets audited, and people can tell when there's things in there.
Yeah, I mean, the price wars are over. That's not why people go open source. They're willing to pay for support. It's not like they're choosing it. They choose it because they want to be able to see the code. They want to be able to understand it. And it's at the bottom, but I'm gonna bring it up to the next news item because it's also a company. I believe they're based out of Germany as well. It's a server software called Univention, and it kind of the idea of Univention is to replace your Active Directory infrastructure and build it around a Linux open source infrastructure. I listened to an interview with the founders, and because they were broadcasting from Germany, they said actually they have a view of the Berlin where the Berlin Walls and Checkpoint Charlie is next to their office.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, they were great to listen to. You can I'll mention that it's you can find it on the Twit Foss Weekly. They covered the whole product. They talk about it in depth and what it does. One of the things interesting, there's other Linux servers that try to do things like this, that try to be like a head end and replace your Microsoft one. They're doing it at scale. We're talking like 100,000 users with multiple VMs it can scale up to.
Wow.
And it's using a hybrid Docker system inside of it. So they have an application manager. So in the way they do applications, like, here's the head end server. You want to add a PBX system. It spins up a Docker, adds the PBX system, then integrates the glue of this centralized user management.
Really?
Then you want to say, I want to add OwnCloud into my enterprise. Then it spins up a Docker image with OwnCloud in it and adds all those users to it automatically. So you still have one central, because this is a problem with Linux systems. You have these several systems and we have users in several systems.
Hmm.
So they're not consolidated through user management. This is something Active Directory does well. That's what this does, is it glues those services together under one system, and you
Yeah.
deploy the applications, and because they're pulling pre-built Docker images, they integrate well, and it becomes the central point. Includes email hosting, includes all the other things. And apparently it's really popular in Europe because now they can create a non-Microsoft environment. And people ask, like, well, have you looked at desktop deployments? And they said that's not the future. They understand this. And it's funny because even you see Microsoft doing this. Windows is not going to be the central. Everything's going to be web managed through some type of a server, because that's the easiest way not to have application deployments on every computer, because now the computer becomes irrelevant in terms of that. I just want to log into an app interface.
Yeah.
And for those of you that but we're going back to, client server with green screen old days. Not really, because you're actually able to host a server yourself. You're able to build a server in your company, run it yourself. You maintain full control over all your data. You don't have to put this in the cloud. They encourage you. And by the way, they actually had talked to this. They've been around for 15 years, a very mature product. When they first started, they were on the fence of whether or not they should have the core of it open source. And they said, we'd be the biggest hypocrites if we preached it. We are the glue that pulls all these projects together, but we can't give you our source code. So they dumped all of it open source. They said every line of code they write is given away.
Nice.
So they're great interview, great product. Take a look at it. You can spin one up for free, and they have a lot of information. Like I said, they've been around for like 15 or 16 years. This is a very mature product, and they have paid support options. So that has any time an open source product has a business model around it, we know it's generally going to survive a lot better. Red Hat.
Right.
And they're doing the same thing. So you have an enterprise with 1 million users, they can scale and they will support it. If you want to just play with it at home, and they said there's a lot of people who do that. They set it up for their home and family to share documents. It's free. Go ahead, have at it.
Nice.
So definitely a product to take a look at. We'll leave links in the show notes for that.
Awesome.
So I really like that. Now, next one is, this is the Israeli government doing the same thing. They're moving over to open source for that. And the rationale is that the code developed in a public expense should be therefore accessible to members of the public. Israeli government is shifting software, all code to open source. They're really pushing hard for this. And it kind of comes down to the same thing. It's a trust issue. They want to know what's in the code. They, when relationships with places get problematic, Microsoft, government, everything else, if the code's not open, we can't look at it. And we're looking at you, Cisco. Come on, you've backdoored how many passwords because you thought it was convenient?
Right.
And we've seen this is why, all these companies have just done things, not even always nefarious, sometimes just stupid.
Yeah.
Just never underestimate stupid people in large groups, even if those
Exactly.
people are coding, especially if those people are coding. Well, I'll just put a password in. So they're same thing. The government's really pushing for open source. In other good news, FFmpeg, which I spelled wrong, I'm going to fix it before I copy and paste it in show notes. 4.0 released. So there's a new version of that. If you're not familiar, FFmpeg is the basis for most of our media encoding for everything. It's a backend library. It's a big deal. It's going to break everything, I'm sure.
Right.
But it's better. We're into the 4.0. FFmpeg is the back end for things like Caden Live, which we've had a tumultuous relationship with, of driving Tom crazy, because occasionally Caden Live will update in the FFmpeg update and it goes down to single thread. And there's always tweaking we have to do to get all of my processors working properly.
Yeah, because usually when it's the your distro that you're running, it's still running the old version of FFmpeg.
Yes.
But Kdenlive Live wants the new
It
version.
wants a new one. And if you don't do it,
Yeah.
when you try to render something, I've had renders where I've done minor things, and because of incompatibilities with FFmpeg, the render should be taking like 12 minutes to render this file. It will take 3 hours because it will somehow get stuck in single thread mode, and you'll watch only one processor pin the whole time versus all my CPUs. Why have all these? So I'm hoping
That's actually the perfect reason, and maybe the entire reason that things like snap packages are created,
Yep.
is because then you can have all these dependencies independent of other programs.
Yes, and that's
So,
actually why I pulled from the Caden Live repository,
mhm,
because that's what makes it the most convenient for me. And right now, because they've updated Caden Live to a new version, it pins all the threads. My videos take way less time to render,
awesome.
so that's been a happy. It may actually stave off me buying a new computer, which is
Hey,
good. I don't want to buy a new one. Like, there's nothing wrong with my i7. I just get aggravated. Videos don't render faster. Like
yeah,
everything else I do is fine. This is all about video rendering. You build bigger machines just to render video. That's life.
yeah. I don't know. At this point, you probably should go to build your own rendering farm.
You know, there's I know there's a way to do some proxy rendering, and we have extra CPU cycles on our servers in our rack. And I
Mhm.
thought about, do I spin something up on our 24 core dual Xeon machines in the back that run our actual stuff because they're not doing anything sometimes, and then render video back there in the idle processes?
Well, can't you, when you go to render, doesn't Kden Live really just build out a script that
Yeah,
you can
there's
move that script over
yep,
if you have all the source files and stuff set in the
yep,
right
there's a way
place?
you can
And
do that.
yeah,
I got to try to find to make it easy though. So,
yeah,
because I don't want to spend more time doing that. Because honestly, although it takes 3 hours, I can use my computer and I do. I'm rendering in the background like all
mm,
the time on my computer.
yeah,
So I do a lot of videos. I'll do something complicated. I'll let it render, and I just keep doing whatever my daily work job is. So it doesn't make my computer unusable. I just want it done faster.
sure.
So that's why it's hard to justify going and spending another $1,000 or $2,000 on building a new high-end system, because I have currently the top of the line i7 multi-core system with 16 gigs of RAM and SSDs.
Mhm.
I don't have a slow system,
Right.
but these Threadrippers came out. And I'm like, oh, look at
Ooh.
that. All these cores. Anyways, so the next one is Microsoft is offering royalty-free racing licensing of its silicone security technologies to silicone partners. Now, this is royalty-free and really interesting. We don't have all the details, but this is a TechCrunch article about Microsoft building its own custom kernel.
Mhm.
Now, the custom kernel, before everyone jumps on this, because everyone sent to me and the title, and please note, I didn't title it custom kernel. I talked about them licensing IoT devices. It's a custom IoT kernel. They're not jumping into the Linux market, but of course, this is interesting that they're doing this at all. Um, the Linus, I believe his view on a lot of this is Microsoft's embracing open source. We are open source people who think it's winning. I actually believe that still.
Mhm.
This is not embrace extinguish, because you can fork the code. Microsoft's already learned this with .NET. They did it, and then someone forked it, and they go, "Wait a minute." And it was actually Red Hat, I believe, that forked it. So
Was it?
yeah, they're
Yeah.
like, "Wait a minute here, we wrote that stuff." But that being said, this whole it's
It's
interesting. I think it's an interesting concept. Microsoft realizes their future is not in Windows. They have destroyed the user experience on Windows. I know because I deal with angry end users
well,
all the time.
and it's so bloated, and because this is really like system on a chip stuff, right?
Yeah.
So small platform or lightweight platforms and IoT kind of things, I guess you would call it. They're calling it Azure Sapphire,
Yep.
right? And they couldn't get the bloated Windows kernel to run on them
Yeah, and
right.
there's so much different, and it's also when it comes to support. This is an interesting position because they wanted to focus on security, and we have talked many times in the show about the fact of insecurity that in IoT devices. A lot of the insecurity though comes from mass manufacturing, because they do system on a chip and then they stamp out some old version of Linux,
Mhm.
not current. It's not been thought out. It's done and bid by the cheapest manufacturer they can find overseas. And I think we covered last year, I think it was, that they stuck the same, they never generated new SSH signatures.
Oh yeah.
So all of them had the same keys on them. So once you crack the key to one, you could get into every device. And
Mhm.
these devices were then embedded in a multitude of products, from toasters to refrigerators to light bulbs, with the same SSH
Right.
keys.
Yeah, and it's not whether it's Linux or Windows.
It's
It's
implementation.
yeah, it's poor implementation and not being able to update.
Yeah.
So the same problem's going to happen with this thing. Azure Sphere in 5 years they're going to be running some devices with 1.0, and it's going to be
Maybe.
just as insecure as something that's other things that are 5 years old.
The theory is that they're going to have something better. They're creating something more modular that's going to be more current. So you're going to build it on a secure platform. And Microsoft has an incentive to keep it secure because it's going to connect to their Azure Sphere data center. And Microsoft realizes the money is in running these data centers.
Mm.
So I think by positioning themselves security first, one, no one else is doing that. Everyone just cranks out IoT crap.
Right.
And them saying we're going to build security first. Now you have the enterprise companies going, oh, we wanted a bunch of IoT light bulbs. We want secure IoT light bulbs. And even though they're more money, and even though they only happen to work with the Azure Sphere,
Right.
which I'm sure will happen at some point, I believe right now that it's not restrictive to that. You can point it somewhere else. But then again, why would you if it's already integrated into Azure Sphere? That and I think I brought it up on our last episode, but I think the proper term would be called cloud creep,
Mm.
when you just keep putting more
Oh,
and more things into the cloud, and next thing you know, you're like, wait a minute, did you realize the cloud bill was $35,000 last month?
35,000. You're lucky.
Yeah,
We I don't know. We
we-
had some really expensive servers
yeah,
where I'm working, and
yeah. And the cloud creep is real. We had one of the meetings we had with a client, um, for the free BSD stuff. People that we know, mutual friends, they're probably listening right now. But he told me just their Microsoft database alone was costing them like $50,000 a month now, just their
jeez,
database,
holy cow.
because they got talked into that. I forget what it's called, but it's it's got a planet name or something. The big multi awesome Microsoft hosts it all in the cloud. Just put your data on the cloud. You can
Oh,
sync everywhere. And next thing you know, here's your bill.
yeah,
My friend
yeah,
worked
because
for
it's what 24 or no 48 cores with, and then you
yep.
have to pay for SQL or SQL licensing on top of whatever service that they're providing, and
Yeah, one of my friends' project was they call those what they call those corporate hitmen that come in and they go in and they cut costs.
yeah,
His IT project cutting costs. He worked for a company that's in the Fortune 100 list and was able to shave 6 million off their bill in the cloud.
jeez,
And that's actually not a huge percentage, but still, it saved them $6 million because he found redundant people because everyone had access to create their own cloud servers,
oh,
and he started taking rights away. He was well hated for taking rights away to do these things, but everyone just kept spinning up servers as whatever's convenient for them,
and they'd leave things running, and they didn't even realize it's going, huh?
and no one needed them. And
Yeah,
a lot of them were redundant servers that could have been consolidated. So
jeez,
cloud creep is real.
yeah, yeah,
But it's real money when you talk about that. I mean, millions being spent on it. It's Microsoft's biggest growth is all their cloud stuff. So that's
Mm.
we understand their incentive for doing it. It's interesting. I don't think they care as much about the licensing. As long as they can make money on all the Office stuff, they will. But
right,
I think Nadella is very future thinking. He goes, "Hey, the money is in running this stuff here, and me having a sales team that tells you should run it here.
yeah.
So I'll make whatever product and give it away."
Pulling it back to Sphere. So I guess what it is if it's it checks into Azure all the time to
Yeah.
do whatever its IoT thing
Mhm.
and updates. So you're really moving it because I mean, if you want, I mean, it's there's Linux things right now, IoT stuff that's already doing this.
Yep.
So it's really moving. It's one company over another, right? They're doing the same thing. I don't
Yeah.
know. But then there's me, and I'm like, well, I don't want my IoT thing reaching out to the internet all
Yeah,
the time.
and that's actually the audience I think we have. And because I had someone write a scathing, "Tom, you're wasting your life, wasting your time," comment on my YouTube. "Why do you bother running Citrix Zen server, or even now I've moved over to XCP? You should just put all your data in the cloud. You should
Mm,
not waste time having physical servers in your physical building." And I'm like, it doesn't cost that much to have them here.
right. Yeah, that's probably somebody that wrote you that
Yeah.
probably has a corporate budget of $100,000 a year.
Yeah. Once you started, I added it up. We had a client that made the decision not to have it because their compute time requirements would have been about $500 a month to
Mhm.
put it there. An on-premise server is great because it's not. Well, you have to look at the total cost. Maybe I'll do
Even if it
some.
was $6,000, that's $500 a month.
Well,
But after the first year, it's paid for, right?
and we have a problem with they need real time. They're a warehouse. They need real time access to that database. So that means they're going to need high end redundant internet connections at their place. So there's another expense that they don't need now. If the internet goes out, the internet goes out. They can't send
Right.
emails, but their warehouse management is that database that
Mhm.
runs. So if they lose connectivity, they can't. They don't know what freight goes into what truck at the dock. They
Yeah,
completely are dead in the water. They aren't dead in the water if they lose internet now, but if they move it to the cloud,
they would be.
they would be dead. They have no idea they don't know what box goes what truck.
Mm,
They get lost.
yeah,
So, yeah, running the cloud doesn't always make sense.
right.
On to other good Linux news. Let's get some happy news here. Yes, I love Linus's comment on this. From Linux on kernel 5.0 end result, we actually removed more lines than we added, which is probably a first ever in the history of the universe, or at all in kernel releases. So Linux kernel 5.0, we're coming close to release on, and yes, they did remove code.
Ooh,
Part of it was, sorry people, we are dropping support for a couple rare unused processors. So you
yeah.
won't be able to run the latest Linux kernel. And if you ever want to know the full breadth of what's supported, Debian, awesome.
Mm.
Debian still has all those weird kernels that you're always like, what? Because one of my office staff asked the other day, a new guy asked, goes, what's up with all these download links? Which yeah, I see the ones I should download, but what are all these? I'm like, you can still run an IBM. I think it's called the S390s. They
Mm.
still have a compile for it.
Jeez.
Those are really old, and you can still run Debian on there. So I think they're losing support for some of that. So yeah, you won't be able to run the
Yeah.
latest release.
Well, even at that, you want to be able to have security updates, right? But on that older hardware, is it really faster to run a new kernel on it? I don't know.
I
Uh,
I don't
uh,
know.
I'm wondering whether you'd get just as good
They
performance out of an
support
older one.
S390X, MIPS 64,
Ooh,
ARM HF, ARM EL, ARM 64, AMD 64, and PPC 64EL. Those are some of the old. I mean, that's just crazy. That's some old. I mean, that's great that they do it. But at some point, the S390 has not been around for a while, so that's
yeah.
uh yeah.
All
When did it
right.
come out? That was from. It was discontinued in '98. All right.
So, did he give a reason for what prompted to go to 5.0? Because
uh
I want to say when he went to 4.0, he's like, it was time to go.
Yeah,
I
I think
just
there's
felt like it.
somewhere there was a while ago there was some comments related to that why we moved on to there, but
Okay.
we did. I don't have that in my notes. So GIMP, which I have been slowly getting better at, it still aggravates me because Photoshop has less actions to get the same thing done, but I'm
Hmm.
committed myself to GIMP and all the insanity. But they have some really cool new features, and one of them was the canvas 3D rotation. I think this is cool. We'll go back to Facebook for a second here because Facebook has like those 3D look around things. GIMP has some methods, are building in some methods for editing panorama and things like that. So I think
Mm.
that's really cool. Um, there's a lot of bugs and tweaks and enhancements and things like that that they're getting for GIMP. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like non-destructive editing is on their roadmap just yet. But hey, it's getting better. It's getting faster. It's definitely it's still my go-to tool. It's why I do all my YouTube video editing. I still can't do my enterprise commercial editing with it for my business. It's just not there yet. It's too much work.
Mm.
Unfortunately, I still have a Adobe Cloud subscription for my staff that does all our website design. I wish it was there. It's really getting close. They're so much better. I try,
Yeah.
but it's still go out there, get playing with it. If you've never used an editor before and you started with GIMP, you're good. If you've spent 15 years using Photoshop, you're not going to be happy.
Yeah. Mm.
System 76 moving back to the USA for manufacturing. They are bringing all the laptops and going to start making everything here.
Mm.
And they said it's not because of tariffs or political reasons at all. It has to do with they want to iterate faster on their laptops. They hate design changes taking too long, so they want to just make it here. The company's doing very, very well, and they're becoming an even more
Nice.
popular choice. So, with all the concerns of things getting embedded and planted and put into machines, they're alleviating some of that by controlling the manufacturing from top to bottom instead of third party. And I
That's
know
good.
from other clients that have overseas manufacturing, this is sometimes communication is difficult with them because it almost seems absurd to me because we do so much work remotely. I have a client who flies to China once a week to deal with his manufacturing team over there.
Mm.
He has to. He says there's just they can't do it over email, they can't do it over phone, so he's got to go there and get hands on and get things in order a lot. It's kind of a pain because
Yeah.
he's got to fly to China a lot and then when he goes there, Google's blocked and he uses G Suite. So he actually keeps a Microsoft account on a separate domain just so he can communicate with his team back here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges, he says, being in China.
Mm.
And but this is why System 76 is doing the same thing. We don't want to fight with them anymore. We're just going to do it all in house. So, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So I like that. That makes me happy. So, understanding Linux file systems, extent 4 and beyond. This is great. This is a good article of the history of Minix, EXT,
Yeah.
EXT2, EXT3, EXT4, the differences and nuances between the file systems. Then moving on to ButterFS and ZFS, of course, on Linux, and why ZFS isn't the default on Linux, although we all wish it was, and the licensing issues that are
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
controversy. But he covers a lot of information about how Linux file systems work and how they design the XT3 versus 4, how they do in place upgrades. It's a good deep dive into understanding Linux file systems. It's a great read. Um, he didn't mention Riser FS, which
Mm.
isn't, there's a lot of controversy around it. I believe the developer died.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was someone died involved in that, and Riser FS was a coming one for a little while. I used to use Riser FS in the early days because before ZFS, that's what I adopted when I designed my own backup servers to back up for clients back in 2005.
Mm.
Riser FS handled the volume of data I had better than Extent 3 did,
Mm.
and now Extent 4 handles it, and that's where we're at in life now.
Yeah.
So pretty cool though. It's a good read. Um, Official statement on I tweeted this. Linux Deepin is not spyware, allegedly, according to Linux Deepin. So I had tweeted this, and there's a guy who does really good reviews of some of the Linux distros called Quids Up. I've been following him for a while, and he went and used Wireshark to show all the data that Linux Deepin was gathering. It seems like we may have done a Deepin review at one point in time.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah. Anyways, their statement that they're not spyware is by showing that what they collect about you isn't considered spyware by them. It
Mm.
does a lot of data collection.
Really?
Now, I'll admit, when you install Debian, the default answer is no, and it does ask you, would you like to participate in the popularity contest of which package you use? And what that does is says which packages you installed and sends it over to Debian so they understand how popular the packages are. They're doing a whole lot more than that. And they don't make their case any better, but we're only gathering the same type of data Google Analytics does. Oh, you didn't make, oh, we're only NSA in it. I mean,
Right.
NSA does it, so it's okay. Google
Oh,
Analytics does it, so it's okay. They weren't upfront and clear about it, I think is where the bigger problem comes in. And we've had the same issues with Ubuntu because they install like the Amazon store and they have a certain amount of
geez,
data they
right.
gathered. But the my favorite part is, for those of you wondering, do read the article on theirs because they link to all the people that called them out, including the video. So they made a list of all the people that dug into the data, and they're
Oh.
saying, "See, we know it." So you actually get the links to all the people that called them out. It's an interesting read. We'll just leave it in there.
So remind me. So Deepin, like their desktop is what, Enlightenment, or what? But
Let me look.
that's not the Chinese one, is
Yeah,
it?
it is.
Oh, it is.
Yes.
Okay.
And it sends, now here's a good argument. It sends all the data back over to a Chinese server. So someone pointed this out in a tweet. They go, I only like to use Chinese stuff because I'm sick of giving my stuff to the Americans. Other people should have it too. And so yeah.
Hmm.
So there's a different, I mean, whatever. It's the way we're gonna go back to, if the Germans wrote it, it probably would never do it. So I'm gonna look for a German Linux distribution now.
Oh, I wonder. Well, yeah, you know what the biggest German Linux
Susie.
distro? Yeah,
Yeah.
Susie.
Yeah, so we should go back to Susie because they don't. This has never come up with them.
That's right.
Oh, the spy. Hey, at least it's open source and we can see what's going on. So it is open source and you can see what's spying on there. So it's interesting. Take it for what it's worth. Maybe you want to give them all the data because it was, of course, done under the usual, the good old "we need data to improve your experience" argument.
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't mind being opted into data. As long as you're clear, I'm gathering this. Would you like to give me this information? I will say yes. I participate with. I updated my sync thing stuff, and I covered in sync thing. I agree with their terms and conditions. If they have an option that you can survey management and send anonymized stats. They're very clear about what they're sending. It helps them improve the product. I do want to improve the product. I don't mind, and so I let them. It sends out the stats. It's clear what they're doing.
Right. Yeah, and I agree as long as it's accurate. But the problem is like this: they say they're doing that, and then it turns out that they're sending more than what they're actually
They're sending more. They send
leading
quite a
on
bit.
to.
It's covered actually. Watch, and they link to it, which is wonderful. Read the article. They link to the Quids Up video. and he does Wireshark and walks you through all the data being sent. So
Mm,
that you may still want to use it. You may think that's fine, which is great. That's I want you to be aware. And I think they should include
right.
that too. Here's a strong list of the data we sent. It's not buried in some errata somewhere. That's fine. Maybe there's some common distro. Here's the data that this distro you agree by loading our distro. Here's all the data.
Mm.
Sure, that's if that's what you want to do, then no problem. So my opinion on it. I always believe it's not necessarily data collection is not necessarily bad. Anything can be weaponized, used for bad reasons. But I think companies, as long as they're clear and upfront about it, I feel better about it.
Yeah.
And that's what I have for the news.
All right. Well, there's a few things I found. There's a new and upcoming firewall for Ubuntu.
Really?
Kind of. Well, it's still in beta, but there's one. It's called OpenSnitch, and uh, so you can install it on Ubuntu. But it's actually is it? It's actually I think it's the firewall from Mac
Really?
OS, and they have it now that you can install it on Ubuntu. It's not packaged for Ubuntu, so you have to kind of like download all the code and
Yeah.
um, or you have to add in their um, repositories and stuff. You know, it's written in Golang and Python.
Oh, okay.
But it has a neat. It's more application based. So do you remember the days of?
Oh, yeah. Like setting application
Net,
options in firewalls.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So you can say, yeah, this application can get out. This application can reach out.
That's
Where
interesting.
right now, most of the firewalls that are on like UFW, it's on Ubuntu. It's the uncomplicated firewall.
Yeah.
Is more connection based. So, do you want to allow this port to connect out or connect in?
So this will
And
never be integrated into deep in because you were like,
right.
wait a minute, this tool can't leave. This tool can't lend data out.
Right. So, OpenSnitch, it's a more. I can see it being more user friendly, saying, yeah, I don't know what ports that this program's going to use, but I know it needs to connect out, or it needs to be able to somebody can connect into it to use the program.
Back in the early days of Windows, before Windows even had a firewall, the Zone Alarm was always a tool to do that.
Zone alarm, exactly. That's what I was thinking
Yeah.
of.
That's actually kind of cool. If you're really concerned about security, you want to know what each application is doing and when it reaches out to the internet. Definitely something to look at. So if you're not familiar with the command line and running netstat to see what applications are doing it, isn't there netstat and ntop? I think ntop will tell you there's a tool that will break down all the connections each application's making. But of course, you kind of have to have a little bit of a back end understanding. So this is kind of cool.
Right.
This is more. I like it. Definitely check this out. I might play with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it gives you the whole list of what it's doing, and you can say allow or deny, not like, oh, wait, this program's not working. I need to open this. And, and I'm not saying that's what I do, because that's my day job now as a firewall administrator. So I understand how that works. But for people that aren't firewall administrators, then, this is going to be something that's more handy.
I think it's kind of cool too, because the question always becomes, if I get a piece of software that's not out of a repository, what is it doing?
Exactly. Yep.
And
So it'll pop up saying, hey, this program's trying to connect out.
Yeah, because I downloaded something not out of a repository, and I watched because I was curious if it does anything. It didn't make any connections. It wasn't supposed to either. So that's part of the important part. It wasn't supposed to make connections, and it didn't. So I'm happy.
Yeah, that's good. All right. So the next thing I've got a link for. It's called Riot, and it's a distributed way of having IRC and VoIP clients and a home server.
Yeah, I really want it. It's all part of the Ring, isn't it?
It's well, they're so you can run it on a home. It's supposed to be like a replacement for Skype and Telegram and what's the one you were using?
Signal?
No. We were talking about it before we started.
Free PBX or
no, not voice.
Slack.
Chat. Yeah, Slack. Yeah. So it's a web-based system that you can have multiple channels. You can do voice chat. You can do, kind of like IRC, but web-based, and and then you run it on your own server. You can also federate it. You can connect to other IRC servers and stuff. And
I'm gonna take a look at that. I've always, it comes down to us. We use Slack because of the phone app being so good compared to some of the other ones I've tried. As we tried a couple of the open source ones, and the phone apps are always mediocre, and we do so much communication via phone because we're out in the field a lot, being an IT service company. That being said, I really want to like some of the other federated ones because Discord is becoming really popular and this and that and the other. But I want something open source, and I mean, take a look at this. Spin up a line node and run it or something.
Yeah, yeah, it looks really interesting. Uh, I was just doing a quick Google to see if there was phone apps for it,
I think there is.
and I see one, and it looks like it. I see an iOS riot.im. I'm not sure if that's
Okay. I'll
it
dig.
or
Maybe
not,
we'll
but
dig into it. Maybe it'll be one of our fresh looks is looking at some of the messaging platforms because there's a couple of them out there. You got, is it Mattermost?
yeah,
Mattermost servers. You got the Ring system. I know Phil's used Ring. He's done some testing with it.
Ring is that?
It's another open source
Oh yeah,
product. Matter of fact, there's an ad for Ring, not the doorbell, but
yeah. Right. That's my first
yeah,
thing
yeah.
that
I
pops
know
up.
that's me too. It's open source SKYCE alternative Ring 1.0.
Hmm.
So let me find it. It's got a weird website. I'm trying to remember what it is. It's
Here, I'm gonna throw in. Oh, there is apps, um, but I'm gonna throw in the link for actually Riot also, so that it's. I'm sure it's in that article, but so you can just put it along with the article that's written up.
yeah,
So check out our show notes for this.
Ring.cx. I knew it was a weird name, but it's
Mm.
another system out there, and a lot of these will interop with each other. Now, Ring is cool because it does have some fairly well developed apps, but I'm still not as clear on how it all works.
Yeah.
I got to do some playing with it, but it's Windows and Mac and Android and Linux all supported. So chat, talk, share. I know it's been getting a lot better. It's kind of generally it's focused at the target market is Skype, like
Yeah.
that type of communication. But with all these companies like Facebook, we learned that the Messenger app was doing a lot more than it was supposed to do on people's phones. It was grabbing contacts and all kinds of things. So
Right.
it is good to look at alternatives that don't rely on third-party companies. And matter of fact, one of the things I have noticed about Facebook is I still use it because I use it for business. They have a lot of ads in their Messenger now because I mostly use it for messaging because it's
Mm.
just for a lot of my clients use. But boy, there's a lot of ads in there now. There's at least
Yeah.
3, and every time I look through my Messenger.
Wow.
So there's that. I mean, I just find it's how it pays for itself, but I don't mind hosting it myself either.
Right. All right. Cool. And then I have that link for the malware.
Okay.
And what's really nice about that article is it goes through and explains of what not what rootkits are and different levels of, like, ring 0 is the kernel all the way up through ring 3 of least privilege. It's interesting how you can read through it and understand, and then you move on to the actual programs and ch rootkit and RK Hunter and things like that. And so you're understanding what they're doing when they're getting in there and looking for it.
I went through years and years ago. It was 2001. It's how long it was. I had some friends that did training at a company called the Linux Box. I don't know. I think they're still around. Yeah, they're still in Ann Arbor. They used to have some like training classes you could go to, some meetings there, and it was kind of fun. One of the rootkit training classes I found really fascinating because the guy had hacked and found one and put on there. And what it had done was it replaced it PS, LS, and all kinds of things. And it hid anything related, anything. It had a hide list. So he was showing how to build the rootkit, and it would build a hide list. So once you infected a machine, it would also replace those versions of software. So it would hide its own processes. So their own custom version of PS wouldn't do it. And that's what he said. You have to run a third-party version of PS in order to find the processes on there, because the rootkit that was the first strategy. Replace the things that you would normally use to find it. So when you would run netstat, it would hide processes making connections from the rootkit. If you ran this, all those binaries were updated.
Right.
So that's why you have to have tools to make
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
That was how they hid themselves from further. That was the first thing they attacked, was always those couple basic utilities.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing to remember is you need to put these things in right when you put the server together.
Yeah.
You don't wait until you think you have a rootkit.
Yep.
Because then you won't be able to install these removals.
Exactly.
It's one of the programs on here is Tripwire. I mean, we've talked about some of these, I think, just in our last show.
Yeah.
Tripwire, OSSEC and Tripwire.
I went over, and it's difficult. I'm still learning it, but OSSEC. is pretty sweet. OSEC and Wazoo
Yeah,
are
OSEC,
tools
yep.
that do binaries comparisons, and they look for binary changes in all the critical files. And if there's a change, you get noticed. Of course, when you apt-get update, you get noticed. So I'm
Right.
working on, as long as I know that I have to get updated and I know I'm going to replace it, that's good. But you always have to think about that.
Right. And that's the exact same thing, saying that when PS
Yep.
is replaced, then it alerts you and says, and then
Right.
you know, wait a minute, I'm not doing anything on
I
that
didn't
server, and
replace
it shouldn't be
PS.
doing that. Right.
So yeah, I keep my tinfoil hat and I run that. So I've had a couple panic attacks and realized I'm the one that logged in. So I'm good. I'm still learning.
Right. All right. Well,
You got music?
I do not
Are we going to music list today?
randomize.
Okay, we can go randomize.
CC hits. Let's do
Sorry
number
for the noise,
one on
folks. I need
CC
a
hits.
donut. Tony Music's, I'm digging a donut.
So I've talked about CC hits in the past. Oh, they've had a website update.
Hmm.
And what is CC hits is Creative Commons music, and they have the hit chart. So the chart of the top, and I guess we'll just go with number one. So the song, it's called "Sea of a Million Faces" by Alison Crow. Right, let me see. Where do I hit play? This one?
Use restroom.
Okay. Oh, Jamando didn't like that link. Should I? It can be me. Should I just sing it? Where is this? The Alison Crow Band? That's not where the music lives. Or it probably is, but I don't know where. It's supposed to be linked right to this Jamando, but Jamando doesn't like it. So let's do a search on Jamando. I bet you guys love this right now, huh? Great radio.
Still no music?
Oh no, I want the song, but the link didn't show up right. Maybe they took it off for some
Oh.
reason, off of Jamando.
Oh, that's not
Or
good.
Jamando is not a very good yeah, I searched for the actual name of the artist, and it doesn't actually come up. So I wonder if they removed their music from that website or from Jamando. I wonder what about the second
Should
one.
I edit this part of the show?
Yeah, you're gonna have to do some heavy editing here.
Okay.
Let's make sure one of these songs links are working before I say the name next time. Here we go. All right. So we're at number 3 on the hit list. And we have History of the World by Hutong. Let's see. This is new to me, so hopefully there's no swear words in it.
Time scale is highly nonlinear. 15 billion years ago, we started off with the Big Bang. 4.6 billion years ago, so
All right. So that's interesting. Uh, it says it's blues and dub cafe. I heard of dubstep, but not dub cafe.
Yeah, and it's weird.
Anyway, so but you know what? The I like doing these kind of things because it kind of gets you out of your comfort zone and out of what you're used to, right?
Yes.
You know, and that's kind of where some of these like tailored news sites is always showing you the exact same things, the exact same point of view, and it's not good to be
I
limited like
let's
that.
embrace some change.
That's right. So, History of the World by Hu Tong. And so I guess we've come to the end of the show.
Yep.
Now, you've been listening to the Sunday Morning Linux Review. This was episode 273 again.
Again.
And this is Tony Bemis.
Tom Lawrence. Sorry.
It's all right. You were giving space for the other two that weren't here.
Yeah,
right?
no, I was thinking about that. I usually say it last.
Right. And we'll see you again next time.
All right.
Goodbye, everybody. And outro.
You've been listening to the Sunday Morning Linux Review. If you would like more information about this or other shows, go to smlr.us. Feel free to send comments to show@smlr.us or give us a call at 734-258-7009. I'm John Miller. If you don't like it, you can
Bite my 8-bit metal ass. That's bite with a Y.
All right. We're still live right now. So normally we would record a second session right now, but Tom and I don't have a topic for the next show. So we're going to kind of like let it go this time.
Yeah, we'll let it go. We'll figure out something in between.
Yeah. You know, I do have one question for everybody out there listening YouTube. So for live feedback, you know, because I saw we had 10 viewers just
Yeah.
now. A few people dropped off just now because it was the end of the show. But we are in IRC and we normally talk, but there's actually been somebody talking to us and I wasn't watching. Oh no. Oh, it's only been the last 5 minutes. Charlie Brown?
Yeah, Charlie Brown AU.
Brown, yeah. So the ring sounds interesting. Yeah. So I know he was talking to you, or you were talking about Ring just a minute ago.
Yep.
And he's looking for something like Mumble, with Discord and a GUI chat. So this would be, you know, Ring or
the one you
or
mentioned.
Riot, what I
Yeah,
was
or
talking
Riot.
about, would have all that in.
Yeah.
Can't you just use Wire instead of Skype?
I haven't tried.
I don't know. I
Wire.
haven't used Wire.
Yeah, this is a problem. There's so many of them out there. And the other fear we have with them, so to speak, if you try to commit to one of them and then they change the standard, they move to a different platform, or the system itself gets just discontinued because there's not enough user base or support, then you've invested a lot of time in setting it up and there's not enough people using it.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I've liked Signal so much. I have a lot of friends that use Signal. It's easy. They keep adding features. It's a nonprofit organization. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I agree. But so the problem that the reason I've been sticking with Facebook Messenger is because my family, you know, trying to get them to move and use something else.
Exactly.
Right. So, or SMS, you know, I stick with SMS and I use Signal, but Signal also can send SMSs. So the people that I do Signal with, I send them Signal chat, and people that I do SMS with, I send them SMS. And it's just getting some people to move over that is pretty hard. And then he's agreeing that the most mainstream news is kind of tailored toward specific topics.
Demographics.
So
yeah, it is what it is. It's they know their audience and they focus on their audiences. So that's where that's how they make money. The Messenger thing though, yeah, it's one of the reasons. Like, do I like Discord? No, but do I have Discord? Yeah, because I use it to chat with a lot of the IT friends that I have because they are all on it. They're all in these Discord channels. It's become the de facto for gaming too. It's not open source, whether you like it or not. There's thousands of people there. So
that's interesting. I remember when Discord was out, and I think it had the web presence so you could log in, but it was mainly used as like the comment section on your website, right? or that's what I had heard. I had seen it being used for, but
Mhm.
I didn't realize now that it's like a whole like social
Oh,
platform
yeah.
now.
It is, and it's very popular. And I got to admit, a lot of people are on it. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
The other thing too is I know Charlie hates using phone number, but one, you can Signal will work with a SIP phone, by the way, so you can get any random SIP phone number, and there's lots of places you can buy SIP phone numbers from.
You have to be able to receive a text.
Yeah, and SIP
Yep.
phone numbers can receive SMS.
Okay.
So that's actually there's I think someone wrote some work instructions on how to sign up for different SIP places to do it. So and there's even SIP places that allow certain levels of anonymized payments. There's only so much you can do for it. The reason phone numbers are used in Signal, and Moxie talks about this, you need a way to be able to identify people.
Mm.
And you have to say, me and Tony want to talk on there. And our phone numbers are like the easiest thing to exchange because one, we can
Right.
call, we can do everything. So they kind of built it at the core. It is what it is, but it works. So, the fact that you can do it. So yeah, it
Yeah.
is what it is. All right. I think that's about it.
All right. Yeah, like I said, we're not going to do another show, so we're going to be signing off.
Yeah. All right. Talk
Again-
to you later, Charlie. Take care.
Yep. Check out our website, smlr.us, and
Whole
hit the
good history of
subscribe
shows.
button.
Yeah.
Where is it? I
Somewhere.
can't point further down.
Yeah. Somewhere.
It's at the bottom of my screen.
There's a button.
Right. All right. Bye, everybody.